One. So welcome to the show, Jeanine Hunter. I worked with you at Discovery Channel, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago. And that was quite a while ago. So I see you definitely branched out and started doing your own thing, which is phenomenal. So I remember I left Discovery in 09. I had a blast there, but I broke out full-time freelance back in 09. So I think you were still there. So Jeanine Hunter, well, welcome to the show. And if you want to give an introduction to who you are, what you do, and what you've been up to.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to say thank you. Thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for remembering me from so long ago, and being able to come on this show and kind of just talk and shoot the shit and figure out what's going on in our crazy industry.
Oh, yeah.
A little background about myself. So, because I can go on and on. Basically going back, I got a film background. I have my master's in film, excuse me, from Howard University. That's what brought me down to DC. So my whole deal or dream was to work on the production side as a director, but then I fell into producing. There's a couple of us in the program where people were bringing us on their projects as producers because we were just, I guess, you have to have a certain mindset to produce and a certain mindset to be a director. It's like different sides of the brain. Mm-hmm. But long story short, so within all of that, after I graduated, right before graduation, I really learned working on set. I got a call from Spike Lee to work on 25th Hour. So basically he called me on a Sunday. I had to be down there on a Friday. I packed up, quit my job. I had a little job, quit my job, went down there, and it was the best experience I had as far as learning production. And it was a union production. Granted, I thought it was a hazing. I complained while I was there, but I learned so much from that experience. Mm-hmm. Then I started working when I came. So this was kind of right after 9/11. Mm-hmm. So work had really was at a standstill, especially in New York City. Like nobody had shot a film. I think Spike was the first one to shoot after.
And I remember that. I remember that movie. I remember that dramatic scene where he showed Ground Zero. Yeah. Yep. And that was kind of a difficult movie to watch on a number of levels.
Yeah. Well, so imagine working there. Yeah. So, and back then we didn't have the phones that we have now, mm-hmm. These smartphones with the videos, because now everything is kind of just in the memory of my head. So I was the lowest of the low. I was a PA intern on set, but it was the best internship out of all the ones there because you were right there, right next to him and on everything. Yeah. And we shot. So I remember Ground Zero. We, it was there was a couple scenes. There was the stock room scene or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think also it was, I forget his name, it was Barry Pepper. I forget his character name. I think it was his apartment or something. That all was in the building that was right next to the towers that had fell. So I remember being a PA and there was a shot that they did, probably a shot you saw, that was outside looking over at Ground Zero. So I was the PA on that scene. So I had to stand there and make sure nobody's making noise or whatnot. And for me, I remember looking over and we couldn't take pictures. So that's why it's all mental. I don't have pictures of it, but just seeing that, and it was so mm-hmm. fresh, and seeing the bulldozers, mm-hmm. they were still cleaning it up and whatnot. And the floor that we shot on, you could tell the people that were worked there packed up and left and never came back. Calendars were stopped on 9/11. The doors had to be Jimmy open because people had locked their offices, probably thinking they're going to come back, but they never did. Yeah. But it's like that day, it froze that day.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But saying that, work was kind of slow. There was a lot of video work at that time. And I didn't, for me as a female, there was a lot of things going on with videos that a PA, where I was now I want to try and get into something else. And plus I still had to finish my thesis.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back to DC, worked on, started in post-production at some of the post houses, and then started at post-production at Discovery, which then morphed into me being a writer-producer for a number of networks during my Discovery stay. And then when I went freelance, I did some obviously work at Turner. I came down to Atlanta, I was at Turner, then I went back to DC. I worked at PBS, TV One. My last gig was TV One. And just doing a little small stuff here and there. So now I'm back in Atlanta.
Awesome. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Atlanta.
Yeah. So I just moved. We moved last summer, staying with family, but officially moved into an own space in January. Thinking there's a lot of production down here, I was getting away from the corporate television world. I wanted to get back onto the production side because I really love the production side and I love being on sets and all that, being more creative and not being limited to like a corporate, even though everything's kind of corporate, but you know, it's production. So I lost my train of thought. So thinking, you know, Atlanta's like a kind of a hot spot. I kind of knew a lot of people are coming from other places like LA or maybe a DC or whatnot. They shoot down here because it's cheaper, and then they go back and whatever, do their editing and their post. Mm-hmm. So like like for what I do, they'll already come with their producers. They'll hire specialty crew down here, like script supervisors and that hair, wardrobe, all that stuff. Yeah. But I came down here anyways for other reasons, family and stuff like that. Then I realized I don't have the community yet down here. You know people, like I said, we work together or whatnot. I've been in DC for 19 years. So trying to build the community down here. I had gotten some calls at Tyler Perry Studios. I met with the head of development there in January. But then all this happened and everything screeched to a halt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I think I'm blessed that there's this somewhat micro market here in the DMV and it's kept me busy. You know, it's funny you mentioned TV One and I had a lot of people back at Discovery say, because in the last 5 years, I started acting and playing, detectives in those ID shows. Oh, yeah. And I had a couple of guys, Umar.
Umar, yes. And yeah. He just went to LA. So I wonder how he's doing. All this bunch of us like moved.
And he sent me a message and he said, I just saw, I was just editing something. I just saw you on this show. When did you start doing this? And I started doing that, 5 years ago because Sirens and Story House and a couple other companies were in the area. And then I think Discovery moved their headquarters. So half of those production companies left. Yeah. Half of them stayed. We still have somewhat of a market. We still have, some shows in Baltimore and DC and Richmond's kind of blowing up, but I'm usually the modern day law enforcement or military. I don't usually, since for a number of reasons, I can't grow a big beard and play the Continental soldier or the Confederate or Union soldier in some of the period pieces going on in Richmond. But
nowadays they can put a beard on you.
I guess maybe and a wig.
Yeah. But TLC and ID are still in the area, so I'm sure they're still shooting stuff.
Yeah. I figured, yeah. So, since you're in Atlanta, that's kind of a hotbed? How would you say right now you've been impacted production-wise, professionally, with the current state of affairs?
So for me, like what I said, like I moved at a time. So it's like with everything that happened, it's good and bad. So I had just moved, and like I said, I didn't have that community built.
Right.
I knew a couple of folks at Turner, which is corporate. But then at that time when I moved, Turner was merging with Warner Media.
Warner, yeah.
So one of the people I knew there, got laid off. People were all on hold. Like I knew people at Aspire. My old boss was over Aspire and Up, but then she told me she was leaving. It was a whole thing. So that's why it was kind of slow on just a few contacts that I knew. I was trying to get back into the Atlanta Film Festival because before, when I was down here, the Atlanta Film Festival had me. I was on a producers panel, and that was a lot of fun. And I met a lot of people doing that. But that was like, that was 2013, I think. And I don't know. And a lot of those people were saying things were slow. Like they were coming to me for work, and I was like, I'm new. I need to ask you. So, like I said, the big thing was the Tyler Perry Studios. And when I went there, they would call me for a couple of things. But I don't know who's going to see this, but like the follow through just wasn't there.
No one's watching. I think I have like 2 subscribers. I probably get like 1 or 2 views per podcast. Don't worry about it. No one.
Next thing you know, this goes viral.
Exactly. I hope so. Please.
Yeah, exactly.
But not at the risk of your career. But no, I mean I get it. It's not to say it's not a dig at Tyler Perry. I mean, just or his studios. It's just something probably just got lost in.
It's a work ethic. I think he has a phenomenal work ethic, despite what his creative is or what he does, but he just hustles.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, well, and it's Atlanta as a whole, what I learned, the work ethic from being up north. Are you from DC? You said you're from DC, right?
I'm from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, pretty much all my life. Yeah.
So, and I'm from, I don't know if I said it, I'm from Buffalo, New York. So, the further up you go, it's just a different work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Down south, it's just slower. It's a little, even when I was at Turner, people were like, man, we need people like you. And like just producing. And I was like, well, I didn't think I was doing anything special. They're like, man, you write scripts, you pick out music. I was like, isn't that what they're supposed to do? And they're like,
right.
They don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got the calls from Tyler Perry, it was just interesting the way the people who were calling me, you know how it is when people call you for a gig, freelancing or even as an actor, there's just a certain way, like it was just real, like not as professional as you would think.
It's funny you mentioned that. I just had a camera, a cinematographer on my show last episode, or the episode before. We were talking about that, and we were discussing how I prefer everything in writing.
Yeah.
Most things. And he goes, there needs to be that first initial phone call.
Yeah.
So you can hear this person, so you can kind of get a feel, because I just turned 40 this year, so I'm already kind of experienced enough to where I can kind of hear a tone. I can kind of hear this person's personality and who I'm going to be dealing with, and do I want to. Mm-hmm. But then as we were talking, it's like they want to talk rates, or they want to talk deals on the phone. I'm like, here, let me email you my deal memo, or email you some spec numbers. We can bounce them off in an email, in writing, at least in text. You don't want to email, at least in text.
Exactly.
So that there's everything's in writing.
A paper trail.
A paper trail, exactly. Mm-hmm. An e-paper trail at this point.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying, to where like you can hear certain people. I've had so many phone calls in the last 5 years. And right off the bat, I'm able to just write them off. Now, not gonna. It's okay. I might take this half serious. The wife is like, "Is this a gig?" And I'm like, "Babe, nothing is a gig. Nothing is a gig until you see it in the Google Calendar, in our shared calendar. Nothing is a gig. I'm just I'm just networking. Let's call it networking. And you're networking with flakes. You're networking with on point, legit folks, and we'll see what happens."
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I mean, you could just hear it.
You can hear it. It's the approach or the tone. It's just even what they say. Mm-hmm. Mind you, when I got a call to meet his director of development, and I actually went to the studios. And obviously, she's a way different person. She just moved from New York, so she carried herself, but I know she was running around like she's super busy.
Yeah.
Because I realized I feel like those people work really hard, because she said there's 200 people that work for the studio. 100 of them are maintenance folks. So that means there's like only 100 people that are running the place is huge. Like when I went on there, I didn't even see the back lot. I had to go to the first building is where a lot of creative stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has a lot of, I guess, sets where he shoots and stuff. Even in that first building, but back in the back were like productions. I guess they rent out or whatever. It's the studio part. I didn't even see that, but it was crazy. So I was really hoping to get on something. Like I felt like our talks were really good. We knew some of the same people. She even asked me, she's like, would you read scripts? I need like script readers and whatnot. Because I realized with Tyler Perry, he's all about quantity, not quality. So he has these deals with whatever, BET and all these like Paramount and stuff like that. And so he has to produce content for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, they're shooting all this stuff. And so that's why she needed some of the script. I was like, that job, yeah, I'll read scripts.
And that's and that's cool. And I have a few colleagues and we butt heads all the time. Is it quantity versus quality? Is it quality versus quantity? Do you want to have one great film, or do you want to have 10 good films or good projects? Decent, something that makes people laugh, something that people watch, something that people enjoy. You're not going to win an Oscar. You're not going to win Golden Globes, Oscars, Emmys, but it's getting the hits, or it's getting ranks on Netflix, or it's adding subscribers to that streaming platform. It's a good show that people are chatting about. Yeah. It's not number one. It's not number two. It might be number 7 or 8 of the top 10. It might be number 9 or 10 of the top 10.
Yeah.
But especially right now in this, I had a number of productions that even before the quarantine, just financially, I mean, being full-time freelance, I'm running to this gig, mm-hmm. and then I find a weekend to shoot something. Well, I only have $500 to shoot this. I'm paying in beer and pizza. I'm shit. Now the fiance's me and the fiance are now going to get married. Me and the wife are now now she's pregnant. Now the wife is ready to pop. So, okay, I got to schedule this and figure, okay, take a 5-day week shoot, turn it into a 3-day production weekend with the colleagues, and turn it into a less professional. It's more like a bros production weekend. And let's figure out how we can shoot 3 productions in kind of like this production hacked way, but still have something entertaining.
Yes.
And still, but save a buck. And it's kind of like this balance of, it's trying to find this equal balance between quantity and quality.
And like what you just said, like with the production shoot, it just brings me back to, and I think that's where things are going now, with budgets. And it's not run and gun, but it's like, I know what we used to always do in school. We shot on the weekends because you rent that equipment on Friday, but they only charging you 1 day, but you can't return it until Monday. So you really get 3 days out of the use of the equipment to shoot.
Yeah. That's that 1980s, 1990s Tarantino hack.
Yeah.
Tarantino found a way to pinch every dollar out of a nickel.
Yeah.
Every dollar out of a nickel. And not only that, I mean, there was other guys that were buying junk gear and YouTube, and nowadays nowadays, because they can YouTube how to fix it up, how to hack it, how to squeeze every little thing out of this camera or out of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. And like you were asking about how this has like affected me and stuff. So I mean, there's that production side of it, but in on the good side, like it's, since I've been slow, and I actually haven't worked on a production in about a year because I had moved. We were staying with family for like 6 months, longer than what we wanted to do. But now we're in this space, and Now of course, things in Georgia have opened up, but productions have, I mean, Tyler Perry just started opening up, but you're quarantined on his studio if you, you know, the actors and stuff like that. And I don't even know if they're really bringing in new people because, you know, I said the calls halted. But for me, I started to focus on, so I've always been like an entrepreneur at heart. So I always had other things going. I had just bought a camera in December because I was going to branch off. Since being down here, I was like, to market myself as not just a writer producer. Because a lot of people will just say, they're writer producers. Instead of paying for somebody to do that, they rather pay for somebody who has a skill like an editor or sound or camera. So I bought a camera. I bought the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. I haven't worked on a camera since college, and those cameras were film cameras. Like, and I was like, okay, I can, you know, learn this, which I still haven't learned. I need to. It's expensive. I bought a camera and I bought a Ronin, and I was going to you know, brush up. And if I get calls or whatever, even for like little small stuff or whatnot, hey, I got this gear, or I can rent it out to people. But again, I got to build that community down here because my friend in DC, he actually wanted to borrow my Ronin for a shoot. He was going to drive down here, turn around, drive back so he can do his shoot. And he was either going to buy the Ronin from me or rent it from me. And I was like, that's crazy. But you know, I need more folks here who know I'm here, know what I have, whatever. But it freed up time for me to kind of focus, or, you know, maybe shift my focus on some other things. So one of the things is like script writing. I've been wanting to get back into script writing for the longest. Like, this is like my script writing board behind here. I took my cards down.
Top secret. I get it.
Top secret. I have like one card. But, you know, because I've always had all these ideas. Even with this move, everybody's like, you need to write that. And I came up with like, okay, maybe I'll do it as a series. It's like Blackish meets Modern Family, because it's the whole blended family, like with my partner, and that's a whole nother podcast conversation or whatnot.
Fantastic, sure.
But so there's that. I also always I was going to open up a beauty supply store, but you know, rent in DC was expensive. I thought Atlanta would be cheaper, but it was still a little pricey for a beauty supply. So I had my online. There were products that I made, like skincare, lotions, body butters, moisturizers, all that stuff. So when things slowed down, I was selling them. You know, people were online and buying. I mean, not like crazy amounts, but you know, I had that business going. And so right when when this all hit, it pushed me to also think about another business opportunity. Long story short, I bought into a franchise. So I'm opening up a CBD franchise in the next couple of months, just because I want to start having, several streams of revenue, especially stuff where I can make money while I'm sleeping. Once that gets up and running, hire somebody there. And I don't have to stress so much about getting freelance work and gigs. So I don't have to stress when it's slow, because I have this also making money too. I don't know if that's smart. I don't know if I'm overextending myself, but this opened my eyes, because I was like, things just shut down. It's for somebody who had just moved to an area or whatnot. I didn't have that, that clientele,
that network.
But another thing right before, a friend of mine who worked at Discovery, I don't know if you knew her, Diana. She has she went to Dixon.
Oh, Diana Dixon. Yeah, the name sounds familiar. I might recognize her face if I saw her. Yeah. Yeah,
she because we all worked on when we got laid off, she went out to LA no matter what. And so had started her own boutique production company, and is, you know, she has ups and downs. She does pretty well, but you know how the industry is. Then she brought me on. We were about to do a rebrand for Urban UMC. Is it Urban Movie Channel? It's Bob Johnson's thing after BET. He started a streaming service.
Oh, cool. Oh wow. Okay.
And I didn't even realize the headquarters is right there in Silver Spring. Never knew that. So we had talked, we had met with the folks and whatnot, and we had just pitched to do their rebrand, but then this hit, and then things got quiet. And then I just talked to her the other day, and they ended up going with somebody they had before, which is understandable because all of this, they're like, we're just going to go with a company that we used because I'm sure they're more comfortable. They don't have to have a bunch of meetings with people they don't know. They just give it to who's done it before.
Yeah. And I tell you, I learned so much on those crime show sets, those ID crime shows, those crime reenactment shows. I learned so many, production hacks, because I'm dying to find a budget for one episode or one season, because they would Airbnb a property and they would use a back room for an police interrogation room. They would use the front of a house for one victim's house. They use the back. I mean, and it's kind of stuff that we did pull off, and with college films with students. But to see like the big boys doing it, and
was this for TV One?
It's for TV One. For My Man, For My Woman, ID. I mean, what was it? Nightmare Next Door, Who Killed Jane Doe, Evil Twins, Evil Stepmothers. All those shows in ID. TV One's definitely TV One's For My Man. I must have been a detective in 5 episodes per season.
I probably be seeing you and just did not realize that was you, because I didn't know you were in acting.
and the last 5 years I just long story short, and I've mentioned this on this podcast before that a number of times, but I deployed with the National Guard in 2014, but I had been doing production since 2005. But I joined the National Guard in 2011 and deployed in 2014, and one of my colleagues moved out to Albuquerque, all these different colleagues of ours, just moving out to different markets. And he got a PA gig on one thing, but then he started acting in a bunch of other stuff. And he said, dude, with your military police background in the National Guard, that's your acting school. When you get back, fill in the blank spots in the schedule, start applying to police gigs, detective gigs, military roles. And when I got back in 2015, I'd say from 2015 to 2017, it was all acting.
Yeah.
There was a couple of AC gigs. There was a couple of AD gigs. There was a couple of, I don't know, PA gigs.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I started delving into live streaming. That was a new tech I jumped on, because me and some of the other colleagues that I've had for years, we were just big YouTube fans, and we would see, all these different podcasts, all these other different channels, all these different review things. And we were trying to figure out, what can we do on YouTube? And I said, well, technically we need to figure out live streaming. So I started delving into that. That's been the main corporate money maker for the last 3-4 years.
Oh, really? As
well, is live streaming. Yeah. And, corporate, industrial seminars, concerts, independent stuff, partnering up with a bunch of other podcasters, having my own podcast, other internet-based streaming new media type shows that they want live streamed as well. And so that was that kind of market that kind of technology that I jumped on, because we're moving into, especially now with this whole, shut in and this whole new normal, we're moving into altered reality and virtual reality. And virtual reality has been around for a while, the VR games, but that's going to be like a mainstay.
It's going to be a thing now. And that's streaming. That streaming is a big thing. Everything's going that route. Because even before all this, when I was at TV One, there was only 3 of us who were producers, and we used to laugh. And the other 2 were older than me. And we just were like, we hope we just age out. Like, we still have our jobs, but we knew for writer, producers, and marketing was going to fade or be less of. I mean, it's still a necessity, but everything with digital, social media, those producers were starting to take over everything. I remember at Discovery when I was producing our meetings, our marketing meetings were just regular marketing meetings. We might I think PR would probably be in there or whatnot. And then I remember when they had the first time there was a social media girl. They're like, oh, so we have such just got hired. She's a social media, whatever, you know. And we were in the room, we're like, okay. And I think we were all just new to it. And I remember her writing on the board, like the number sign, which is the hashtag. But all in the meetings, they were calling hashtags. Now, I didn't want to be the idiot. So in my mind, I was like, what in the world is a hashtag? And then as more and more of these meetings, the social media department was growing in these meetings. And then I see, I'm like, oh, the hashtag is the pound sign, the number sign. I said, what in the world is going on? And now it's like the thing.
Yeah.
Like, so I think, yeah, things are going, especially like the podcast, this virtual, whatever, meetings, talking, interviewing. I even think shooting. I'm noticing on some of the programs that were, I guess, in production, like those kind of live programs, those competition shows, or even like I watched Real Housewives of Atlanta. I noticed at the end, so you know how they usually have the, what do you call it at the end when they bring them all together, the recap?
Oh, the reunion? Yeah,
the reunion, yeah. So I noticed then with this reunion, they had to switch it up. And then now the reunion, everybody's in their house doing the video.
Yep.
And now I'm seeing more and more. One of the things I briefly saw, I don't watch, I think I just was flipping just to see how productions were how things were looking. And like The View, I see promos for The View. All the View hosts are all at their house conducting interviews with whoever that person is.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Was it American Idol or one of those shows? Like,
I didn't see the new normal American Idol, but my wife watches all the Real Housewives shows.
All the Real Housewives.
Most of them anyway. And yeah, I saw all the Zoom reunions.
Yeah.
Jimmy Fallon's doing it that way.
Really? Yeah.
I think Jimmy Kimmel's doing it that way. I mean, I don't really watch late night. I haven't watched late night in a while. But yeah,
I think Ellen was doing that. I'm seeing, which is weird, like the competition shows. Now like, so if you singing, you're at home singing and they're judging you.
Yeah.
So I think that's just like the new, I think that's going to be the new way. Oh, and one quick thing. I don't know if this is kind of not really going off subject, but I saw early on, like maybe the first month into this quarantine, an article came out about Discovery and how much money Discovery is now saving on production because of all this quarantine. What they did, okay, they mailed cameras and I don't know, probably some sound equipment or whatever, and you go and you whatever shoot the scene at your house, like, you know, very minimal crew, if any.
Right.
Everybody else is basically just kind of shooting themselves and then sending it in. An editor edits it and puts it together. And they would save like millions of dollars within that first quarter. So I was like, just with that, if it was me and I'm the finance person and looking at that, I'm going to be like, why do we go back to the other way? We save so much money.
Exactly. Yeah. So the last 3 years, and it's funny you mentioned that. So the last 3 years I've been doing, you know, a lot of these live streaming corporate industrial events for, you know, this association for tax accountants or this association for oncologists or this association for dentists or whatever. And they would have this big event, a 5-day event at a convention center in New Orleans or the Washington Convention Center or Atlanta or wherever. And we go there with all these computer decks and cameras and shoot the podium and shoot, have different angles if we have more than one camera, and we stream it out to their website. And now they're doing it. Now they're doing the virtual thing, and that's what I've been doing from home. They're doing the whole virtual conferences, and there's probably they're going to look at the budget. They're going to look at what they spent for this virtual event, same attendees, same amount of people that got certified for attending, you know, the same quality speakers that showed up with the same PowerPoints.
Yep.
But the cost of this event doing it virtually versus the cost of renting out, you know, some convention center in Vegas or some convention center in New Orleans. And don't get me wrong, I really hope we go back to the old normal, and I get my gigs in New Orleans, and Montreal, and Vegas, and travel like I used to. But they're going to look at this budget, and it's you know, some pretty much good timing for me now, because we got the 4-month-old. He's about to be 5 months old.
Oh yeah.
And I'm here, and if she has an emergency, I can run out there, I can help her. And then when I'm done, I'm right here. I just walk 10 feet. I grab them. She can go take a nap. She can have her private time, or we have family time.
Yeah. And
it's working out perfectly. And even back in 2017, 2018, 2019, I was trying to find an at-home hack.
See,
you know, remote editing, the podcasts, the live streaming, because I'm sure, you know, as an entrepreneur, as a filmmaker, as an independent artist, filmmaker, freelancer, you got to do 17 different things to strike gold at one. 17 different things. You got the CBD, you got the face creams, you're writing, you're producing, you're directing, you're production coordinating, you're a jack of all trades. So that at one point you strike gold as a producer or a director or a writer. And then once you strike gold as a writer, then you can delve into directing and producing it as well from that. But you doing it of 10 different things, 15 different things, you strike gold at one, and then that'll lead to 2, 3 huge things. And then that's your mainstay. But but
see, sometimes I feel like I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I got all these things going on.
And that's the other risk.
That's a risk. And then with all this that had happened, it helped me to start to focus. So, okay, you know, and it doesn't just have to be a one focus for the rest of my life. Like, okay, right now for the next 6 months, I'm focused on opening up this brick and mortar, getting that up and running. So then when I, once, you know, I know that business and I get all I need is like one employee, get an employee in or whatnot. They can do it while I'm not there. Then I start focusing on getting back on the freelancing gigs, as far as, you know, because I've slowed down on some things. I'm getting older. I'm not like how I used to be on set. I really wanted to focus on writing, which I could do at home. I always was looking for at home stuff. The downside is I was like, oh, if I would have just waited, like if I knew this was happening and I waited like a few months and stayed at my job, I'd be working from home anyways. And I could have moved and nobody would have known the difference. I'm still, you know, writing scripts and screening and viewing on my computer and sending it off. But I think everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely. And no matter what happens, my discipline, my focus is on the positive. Let's focus on the positive. There's that famous saying, you know, hope for the best, plan for the worst. And that is where, you know, the investing and the saving and the financial discipline and the budgeting and the honest communication with the spouse. And, you know, this, you know, having a basic security. Now, years ago, I was very, very unwilling to move and to travel. I bought a condo. In my personal opinion, I bought a condo way too early. It was a dump. Hindsight, it was a dump. Terrible market, terrible area. Not the best outcome when I finally sold it. But then, okay, now I'm not renting. I'm owning. So I can't just up and go to LA for 2 months, 3 months for a gig, trying to find different things, you know, in the DMV market. I was at Discovery. Discovery was, you know, great for a while, but when I broke out full-time freelance, things got risky. And so after that mistake and after that learning lesson, and a number of other learning lessons, obviously, you know, it was like, you know, have this security in such a way that still allows me freedom. Build skill sets, build a number of skill sets that when shit hits the fan, I can jump back on this.
Yep.
And when the shit hits that fan, jump back on this.
Yeah.
And enlisting in the National Guard at first, you know, that's just 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. But especially DC National Guard, there's a whole number of other opportunities I can jump on and say like, hey, shit hit the fan. Okay, we got you covered. Come over here, do this for a month, do this for 2 months, do this for 3 months.
Yeah.
And they help you out in this, that, and the other thing, blah, 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 blah. And so it was like this very strategic, strict thing in such a way that life doesn't have to be, that the outcome is life isn't strict.
Yeah.
There are a number of freedoms, and I'm still pursuing the main goal, which is film, TV, writing, producing, directing, ADing, acting, you know, and I'm able to pull that off. And the wife was like, how are we able to survive? How are we pulling this off? I'm seeing some of your gigs, and I'm looking at your schedule, you know, for some of these weeks. And look, you know, things were fine tuned, and I had to step back. Like you said, I had to step back and focus. Luckily, I did that years prior. So that when this thing hit, I looked at her like, this sucks in so many ways, but this is phenomenal in a whole number of ways. We're going to be fine.
We'll be fine.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think it's a skill set.
Yeah.
Like it's that, like, it's like pre-production, you know, you know,
you got your rain days, you got your backup days, you got all that. Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. And I think same with me, you know, I always, you know, strategically, you know, made sure I didn't, like, this was the riskiest gamble I took with this move, because with both of us both quitting our jobs, well, usually, I mean, I was just a single girl or, you know, date or whatnot, but my partner now, we've been together for like 5 years. We've been living together for 5 years. And so it's like, you know, our incomes, you know, it's who does it. So DC, I had a house, you know, it was my house. He was in. So in making this move, it was a huge gamble, because one of the reasons is because his son lives in Atlanta. So for him, he was coming down here to be closer to him. Me, I was just burnt out. It was time for a change. You know, I was at an age, I was like, if I don't move and do this now, I'll never go. I'll never branch out. I felt like DC, some things were shifting, especially when Discovery left or whatnot. Some of the corporate gigs, jobs, not the gigs, but the full-time jobs I had were making me miserable. And in my thought process is, if I'm so miserable, if I come home and I'm just like, whatever, either crying or just, you know, just don't want to go to work, I gotta make that change for myself. I don't want to be like my parents or whatnot. That's what they just did. They just go to the job, punch the clock, it's a check. But then next thing you know, you're 50, 60, 70, angry at the world, and you never did what you wanted to do. So this was a huge gamble, because we both quit our jobs. I got renters in the house in DC. So that was my plan. I was like, because at first, you know, a couple of people, like my partner, was like, oh, just sell it. I was like, you don't understand DC's market. I bought at a good time. So my appreciation in my house is a lot. And other people are like, keep it. That when one of my friends said, that's your retirement, I was like, I got to think of it like that. It basically is my retirement. Yeah. So if I get some renters in there, granted, I had renters in there for a year. They were terrible. So I'm fixing up the house now, trying to get military in there. Folks, a little, you know, sadly, you know, just certain mindsets or whatnot of how they will take care of your property.
I'll tell you what, if you rent only the military, this is the best way to stay on top of your renters, because, you know, they'll probably, you know, tell you what unit they're in. And if you're having an issue with your renters, all you got to do is call their first sergeant. Yeah,
my property manager, he's military. I think, I don't know if he's Navy, and he's the one who told me that. He was like, if you have any issues or whatever, you call whatever their sergeant.
You call their unit. Yep. You just call their first line. You just call their E5 or their E6. Ooh, bad news. Bad freaking news. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm trying to get that. So hopefully we're trying to post that by this weekend. But like you say, like, I guess going back is, you know, I always had, you know, kept a savings. My mom's a retired banker, mortgage underwriter. So she always beat in my head and my brother's head about having good credit, and establishing a savings. So, and that was the cushion for when we moved here, because it took us, we thought my partner works in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a big thing right now, but he got into same thing with production, came down here. He didn't have that network yet.
Yeah.
So it took longer for him to get a job, which now he has one now.
Yeah, I think, with cybersecurity, I think it's more secure to, get into a market, to get into a network or what have you, just based on like, hey, you got this cert and you're up to date on it. You got that cert, you're up to date on it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we don't really know you that well, but we can get you something. And that's kind of my view on that. Whereas film, film, it's not only about certs or about education.
Yeah.
It's about skill set. It's about personality, and it's about artistry. Yeah. I can't fucking stand working with this PA.
Yeah.
This key PA or this AD.
Yeah.
Out. And
it's relationship.
And really, it really is in the film and TV arena, because it's like this AD and this production coordinator are phenomenal. They treat people well. They're fun to be around. They're hilarious, and we make our days, and we make our budgets.
Yep.
That's why that guy keeps getting hired over and over and over again.
Well, exactly, and that's what I miss with DC. And what I realized I don't have here especially on the production side, because everybody that I worked with in DC, everybody I worked with was in DC. And there were crews, like because even when I was at Discovery, I would do side stuff. And a lot of times I wasn't even really getting paid for it. It's just, I saw it was we were a crew of folks, had these ideas, building our reels. We worked well together and we were building. Even at Howard, like, I miss all those days. Like we had a crew, and it gave me a false sense, like production. Cause that's why I love going on production shoots and stuff like that. Cause it was, we were all like family. But what I realized, like on the bigger stuff, like when I went on that Spike Lee set, that first day, I'm a young kid. I was 24, 25. Go on set, and like all the crew, like the grips, the electric, wardrobe, they all coming on set like that first day, hugging each other, high-fiving, hey, what's up, da-da-da-da-da. Most of them minority. It was, predominantly what I realized, Spike is the only one in Hollywood that demands a
primarily minority crew.
Crew.
Yeah.
And so I'm a kid. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. Everybody has so much fun. And one of the grips, he pulled me aside. He was like, oh, no, don't get used to this. This is not how it normally is. He said, Spike is the only one that demands this. So a lot of them don't see each other unless they're on a Spike set, which was so sad. But now I see it now. I've been years in it now. I see it. They're like, they don't see each other unless they're on a Spike set. And then especially about the minority aspect, a lot of them are like, I'm one, if any, in the department. And then I realized that when I started working at Discovery. I noticed that when I was a writer producer, I had to sit back. When I was a staff writer producer, what did they have? Like 12 US nets at the time. I was the only Black female out of all those networks on the marketing side. That's 12 networks, a whole bunch of employees. There wasn't much diversity. Their diversity to them, because when we would go into meetings, and I think they were a little, tunnel vision or blinded. When they would talk about diversity, it was because they weren't just getting people from Nat Geo and in that whole bubble. They were getting people in New York, getting people in LA. I'm like, but there's other diversity, and you see who's in the room, and they want to know what you're doing with that. I think now, I don't even know if I don't know if it's slowed down, because that's a whole nother conversation with everything that's going on. Besides the pandemic, the stuff that's going on with our race relations in the country, especially with this with this president. I feel like he's fueling things. I feel like we're all disconnected. At one point, it felt like there was a big movement where people were trying to be diverse, like Discovery. They had that Oprah had some sort of panel. A friend of mine who's in DC she decided she has her own little production company. It's really her. She's freelance. She started a diversity crew list because I guess one of her clients reached out to her and said, hey, we're trying to find like more diverse people. I think because of this whole movement, this being sensitive to everything, we're trying to get more diverse crew members, but we don't know where to go, which is crazy. That means they just haven't been around like looking, because we're all out here. And she created this list. Granted, she was excited because I think at least one person got a job. I haven't gotten any calls, but it's like this whole, they're trying to, I guess have productions and doing this bring this diversity into it. Cause this climate is all muddled right now. I kind of strayed off to a thing.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that. There's this one project I did which required voiceover artists, and so I went on a casting website and I put out a casting notice for voiceover artists, and I said, and I just reached out to everybody in the area, and I said, I need some males, I need some females, I need 3 males, 3 females, but I must have gotten like 15 males, 20 females, and I went with maybe 4 males and 4 females that I just like their tone. I have no idea what they look like. I didn't even look at their IMDb's or anything like that. I just like their voice. Yeah. And their diction and their performance. Yeah. Or this and we were talking about crime shows. I did 2 fictional crime reenactment shows like the ones on ID or TV1, but one set in the DC Comics universe, one set in the Marvel comic universe. So it's like a crime reenactment show for those villains. Yeah. But I needed a voiceover artist, just like, For My Man has a voiceover artist, or Evil Twins, Evil Stepmothers, they have narrators. Yeah. And I have well, except for this one actress who I worked with on a Toyota commercial. She's African American. She has a great voice, and she had done a number of TMZ spots and big deal spots. And I said, well, I got to have you. And I told her the idea. And so she sent me 4 or 5 different scripts for 4 or 5 different episodes. So I know she's African American, but I have no idea who the hell these other people look like or how old they are. They just sound great.
But it depends on what you need voiceover for. Like coming from on the producer side and having to work with a bunch of voiceover people, I could tell you at Discovery, I would think 99% were all Caucasian voiceovers. Nothing wrong with that. That's Discovery's demo. TV1, those voiceover actors are African American because that's their demo. And there is a certain tone. This Discovery I had to with the different networks, the networks had a certain tone that they like. Some people like the tone with the guy where he smokes a pack of cigarettes a day. Some people want like the bright voice or whatever. Discovery, TV1, it's this bass, but there is I guess an ethnic tone. I mean, not like urban or anything like that. There's just a deep
I get it.
I know what it is. Yeah, I don't want to sound like, but
I think you can get away with saying it.
But it's not like slang or anything. But you can just tell it because it's how I even grew up. People just even getting jobs and being on the phone. See, I grew up in the suburbs, and honestly, when I used to I worked with a lot of inner city kids, like troubled kids or whatnot. And they would always ask, they would sit there, it's so ignorant. And this is going to stray into something else. And then they'd be like, oh, well, you sound white. And I was like, well, what does sound white mean? I was like, because I I'm articulate or whatever. And it is it's an education or a certain tone or whatever.
Yeah.
And I sound like my mom.
Right.
But there I lost my train of thought. There's certain things with even where you go. You can be down south and have a southern accent. You can be in New York, there's the New York accent, the Boston accent. It's like what you're around in a way, or you sound like your people. Like when kids are growing up or whatnot, I'm like, wow. Or just even with me, people are like, wow, you sound like your mom. I was like, I hate my mom's voice. That's why I guess I sound like her. And I also grew up in a different environment. So there's just certain ways, and there's certain ways, you can just, I guess, say or form words or say things depending on your where you're from or your region, or like I listen to country folks and like they'll say like, I hate my accent. Shoot, but moving to DC, some Marylanders like, I hate, like I guess in Baltimore or whatnot, because there's an accent there.
Yeah.
And whatever, Maryland
and there's different slang. There's different slang and different pronunciations of what is it? A Maryland. Which is what is it?
Baltimore?
There's this one word that they always pronounce. Oh, Townsend. Like
it's not Towson.
It's Towson. But they're always like, Townsend. What is this one freaking word? I think it's washer, like a washer.
Oh yes, I didn't know what they were saying.
Wash your laundry, wash your car, wash. Okay, yeah. There's sure, of course, and I guess naturally I'm a little guilty of this. Like maybe I can tell if someone's white or black by their tone, but I'll tell you, New Yorkers, I can't tell shit, man. That New York accent.
Tell. So it's
that New York accent, especially like New York accent, like New York accent.
I love New York accent. It's hilarious to me.
white, black, or Hispanic, or even Asian. If they have that thick New York accent, there's no way.
There's no way.
I can just tell that they're from New York. Yeah,
and then
that's it.
The folks with the New York accent, those thick ones, probably can't get rid of it. Like good voiceover people, can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
like, you need country or you need British or whatever, they can say it and you'll never know. But then there's some where it's just you can either tell or you can't tell. Like
my mother-in-law is from Long Island, and she's I think she's been in Maryland just over 40 years now. But there's still a couple of words.
Long Island.
But there's a couple of words where that accent slips out.
Yep.
And I'll catch it, because me and a couple of buddies, we stayed in New York for quite some time, near Prospect Park. But even like a month, because I was camping out with these guys trying to get gigs in New York, and I lucked out a couple of times getting some New York gigs. But just a weekend, and you start in New York, and you start
picking it up,
you start talking funny. My mother-in-law, she'll say a couple of things. I'm like, it's still there. Yeah.
I'm from upstate. I never thought I had an accent until I went to DC, and then people were like, "You have an accent," and I was like, "Well, what is it? What accent do I have?" Because I really grew up 15 minutes from Canada, so Canada has a certain way they talk too. The way they say about, like a boat and whatever.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, we all have certain ways, and some are just better at being able to have whatever it is that you need. Like I look at some of the actors, like some of them I would be shocked that, like I love me some Idris Elba, and then when I first learned that he has a British accent, I would have never known that. Like, like I guess they do the whatever training. And
some people are able to pull that off. Like he and Gary Oldman are. Is he British? And Gary Oldman's British.
Did I know that? I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, and like Christian Bale, the way they're able to just pull off different accents. I mean, I don't know if I could, like, maybe if I just like hung out with somebody and just picked it up, I don't know.
You'll get it.
But
You act. You'll get it. If a job says, "Hey, I'll pay you,"
I'm just
know,
I'm just like regurgitating shit that I learned as a military police in the National Guard. Well, I mean, you raise a good point, because there's a lot of different styles of acting.
yeah.
And you know, the military really helped build self-confidence and kind of and composure. And my top three keys are being comfortable in front of the camera, because there's a lot of people that just lock up like a deer in headlights.
Yep.
So being comfortable in front of the camera, memorizing your lines, and connect to the character, and connect to the role, connect to the character. So that's why 9 times out of 10, it's, for me, it's going to be law enforcement or military roles. You know, there was a racist, homophobic bouncer that I played.
Racist, homophobic.
Not homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, Islamophobic.
Oh.
And he wouldn't let this Muslim girl in because she was wearing a hijab. And so I just thought about somebody that I knew on a deployment, and I just kind of like just connected with that guy. What was it? There was an inmate that I played, and so as a military police, I also do military police corrections for the Army and the National Guard. So I just thought about some of the scumbags that I dealt with, and just mimicked them in a way. But as far as, you know, there's actors that like Johnny Depp and Gary Oldman and Christian Bale that just and Robert De Niro that, you know, metamorphosize into something different. And that's not exactly the style. I'm more and maybe because it's just easy, maybe because I just love being on set. I love acting in such a way that I'm a part of a creative process. I'm part of a project. It's work. I just love set life, whether it's in front or behind the camera. That maybe I'm not putting in the work. I'm not putting in the teaching, the classes, the coaching, but more along the lines of Tom Cruise, Tommy Lee Jones, Bruce Willis. And I don't want to say that I'm lazy. I don't want to say that I'm looking for shortcuts or easier gigs. It is just, but I'm just putting, you know, Glenn Nelson into another role. And it's really Glenn Nelson being the inmate or the cop or the detective in a different time period, in a different decade, in a different, you know, era, in a different environment, different emotions with a different name, different background. But I just look at it like, okay, how would I be this role? Yeah. And the director asked me to do something that I would never do, but I'll do it. That I would never do, but I would do it if I did.
If you did it.
If that makes sense, yeah.
Well, I guess it's different styles. I think more what you're talking about, like those actors that really get into it or metamorphosize, it's that method acting. Yeah, method acting, what's his name? Denzel Washington is very big on that. I think like I love Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix is huge. It's just like transformative. That's another one I mentioned. Like, into it, I was like crazy. Like, I know your mind is all over the place. Even going back to the Spike set, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I remember everybody, like when I was doing First Team, and I was on Philip Seymour Hoffman, like we were told, don't talk to him when we have a break. Like, don't talk to him. Not like because it's an ego thing. Because when he's on set, he's in his character, and his character. You saw 25th Hour. He was like the weird, recluse guy. So he was in it, and I remember I would just kind of stand at a distance, and when they would call us back in or whatever, I'd let him know, Mr. Hoffman, whoop, whoop, whoop. But he would be in it, and he would go off and smoke his cigarettes and whatnot. But you could tell, like he wasn't hanging out with the other actors or anything like that. He was in his moment, and I was like, wow. Yeah, and that's another good one that you mentioned, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I remember him, I think in '96, A Scent of a Woman. I don't know if you ever seen A Scent of a Woman with Pacino. I remember them. I guess I didn't see it. Hey, well, listen, I was a 16-year-old white kid at a preppy school. It was about a 17-year-old white kid at a preppy school dealing with that kind of environment. But he was more middle class.
I had a lot to relate to with Chris O'Donnell's character, and he was getting guidance from Al Pacino. This is the role where Al Pacino won an Oscar. He played a blind guy.
I'm gonna
And
write that down. I gotta
Son of a Woman is just an amazing film, especially for me. There was a lot of factors that I really connected to this film, but Philip Seymour Hoffman was a complete douchebag. Complete douchebag. And then in 25th Hour, you're right, 25th Hour, kind of an awkward, weird dude. He was a freaking spy. He played a British spy, I think, in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy or something else. I mean, the guy's like method. The guy is metamorphic. I mean, he's incredible.
And I think with that, sometimes then what I like is you don't realize, okay, that's Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's a character. We just watched like Boogie Nights was on the other night. Hadn't seen Boogie Nights in years. And I was like, I forgot he was in this.
I'm a fucking idiot. I'm a fucking idiot. That was my favorite scene. It was so weird. It was so creepy. He's like, Dirk, come check out my car. You like my car? And he's so weird. And he's super awkward in that. And like really
standing in the back, like kind of just looking at him and like, I was just like, wow.
I'm a fucking idiot. I'm a fucking idiot. And like, I just couldn't, it was so sad, but yet so like pathetically funny at the same time. Yeah.
I think he's a tragic character on screen and in life. I think he had a lot of stuff going on.
That was really sad. Yeah, it was really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to a brighter side. What's next on what's next on your agenda? What's like a set of goals for the next 6 months? Your agenda, your set of goals.
Oh, okay. So it's part of my goal. So like I said, one thing is my goal focus now is setting up this brick and mortar. While we're in this, I actually right before this I had a call. Somebody here needs some crew on for a series. Their trailer looked really dope. Like we talked about Tone, I got on the phone with him. I could tell he's from Atlanta, young, but I liked his hustle. So maybe I might start working on that. I'm sure they don't have any money. It's just, I think he's got a hustle and he's got a lot of good things coming up, like meetings to have. And he needs help because come to find out, this is his first time directing, first film he's never been on a set. And I was like, really? And I was like, your trailer for somebody who has never done this wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't like the greatest trailer, but it looked nice the way it was. It was decent. So maybe I might do so, a couple little small side gigs while I'm getting this store open. I'm getting I don't know if you've heard about this. So I'm going to get certified as a compliance. What is it?
Yep, I heard of it.
The COVID-19 compliance officer.
Yep.
So I'm taking that tomorrow.
Okay.
So I will hope to do that on some, maybe, I don't know, get some gigs on set. That'll bring me back on set and maybe can meet people or whatnot. Because I think folks aren't, not that they're not thinking about it, but they need it because of all that's going on, and they don't realize. And they're like, who do we get? Who's trained in this? So
well, there's a couple of gigs around here, especially in the DC area, that are not only trying to crew up that position, but they're offering, I think, to pay for the test for the person that they like. And I with an AD background and like a AP, AD, UPM background.
Really?
And a military background. I'm putting that out and saying, look, I can do it. And they say, well, are you willing to take these gigs said, are you willing to take the test?
Yeah.
If you don't have it, I said, yeah. So I think a lot of people even paying for the test.
But it's not that expensive. If I'm thinking of it right, how I first saw it, did you know Chris Mcneil?
Yes.
So Chris Mcneil just posted like the other day, she's like, I'm now a COVID-19 compliance officer. She's in Seattle. And I'm like, what is that? And she was like, oh yeah, I just took, I took this class through, I think HSA or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I clicked on it and I saw, I don't know if you know Claire, remember Clara Benice? Claire's in LA. You probably, maybe if you saw her, she was like, oh, I'm also one too. And so Claire and I are real good friends. So I texted her, I was like, because I was looking then to see how you do it, but I wasn't sure like if it's by state or whatnot. And she's like, yeah, she got hers. and it's only $50. So it's $50 to take this course. So like tomorrow, it's a 2-hour training. I hear it's super boring, but it's 2 hours, and then you take the test right. Yeah, you take the test right after.
Death by PowerPoint.
Exactly. Like,
well,
wash your hands.
Well, I'm used to that. Death by PowerPoint, especially with military background.
Oh yeah.
And maybe the first 2.5 years I struggled to get through college.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for mine. So if it's really that simple, or not simple, you got to sit through this class, get this, and then I would love to do that on productions or whatnot, because I think that's part of the new normal right now.
Not only that, I think it's not only part of the new normal, it's important because we want these productions to pick up. I love, and we both said it earlier, we love set life. I mean, that's obviously we wanted to get into this business because we're artists, but thinking about set life, you're interacting with different people, you're networking, you're traveling, you're seeing. I've been in like so many different random courthouses and senate houses and churches and historical theaters that we were shooting, like a movie theater scene in, but went to these old, movie houses. And so that's why we love set life. And so if this is a new position that everybody probably should just take it,
do it. Or like, if I'm in production right now, then it would be a no-brainer. Either I would have my AD or PM go ahead, take this test, or bring somebody in. But if I already have somebody who's going to be on set, have them go ahead and get certified, because everybody wants to get back into production. I think we need to start thinking really creatively on like what we do, because like I say, I think production's going to change. Some jobs are probably they're going to phase them out, or you got to find a creative way for people to hire you instead of getting a DP who, I don't know, might be $1,000 a day. If I'm a DP, maybe I'll be like, okay, I can, because it's really, for me, a good DP is the eye. And you can really utilize natural light or certain things in a way to really light your stuff. That's something I learned with working with Brad. Because I was the first person to shoot my thesis on video. They tried to argue with me because they're like, it's film school. I went ahead, I bought myself a camera, didn't tell them, and I shot it. My committee didn't even realize it wasn't film. Yeah, because they were like, everybody just thinks they're going to do video and it's going to, I was like, I know Brad's going to shoot this. Well, we don't have any money, but I'm going to buy this video camera and he's going to work this light and whatever and make it look nice. But I think we need to find creative ways, be like, okay, all right, if I'm your DP, normally I'll shoot on the red. It'll be $1,000 a day. You might have to shoot on your iPhone and do something really nice with that. I used to laugh at people shooting stuff on their iPhone. It's
not about what you have, but what you do with it. And and I brought Blair Witch. I brought up the Blair Witch Project up on the show a number of times, but half of it's video, and half because they came up with they came up with a production hack. They invented the found footage horror film.
Yeah.
Back then, I called it a mockumentary horror film.
Yeah.
But the style was, okay, we're shooting a film, we're shooting a documentary on a 60mm camera. We've got this video camera, just as like backup behind the scenes of the documentary, blah blah blah, which turned into the collaboration of their found footage that they died and lost and was found and pieced it together to put this found footage film together. Yeah. And that was their style. And you're right. It's not, when did that come out? 99. And when did you do your thesis film?
My thesis I did in 2004. Well, my classes ended in 2002. So between like 2004, I graduated in 05. So 03, 04.
Yeah. And I graduated 04. And so I was doing a bunch of video projects, and there was a requirement for this one film. Well, there was a requirement for my 3 thesis films back at Towson. We called them Film 1, Film 2, Film 3. you had to shoot them on film because the whole process of shooting and exposure and changing out your mags right, and then sending it off to get developed, and you'll see a video playback. Do you want to pull some exposure to it? That whole process was a must for those 3 specific courses. But all the other ones, they were like, oh yeah, shoot it on the, what was it, the XL, the GL, the mini DV, this and the and then eventually I got a T2i DSLR and shooting all this stuff, and then they figured out how to do 24 frames per second on video. It's not about what you have, but what you do with it. And yes, there are certain, film 1, film 2, film 3, it is required you shoot it on film because there is this science and this procedure we want you to know, to remember, because I was editing film, flatbed, reel-to-reel film, splicing that together.
Yep, I was just about to say that. For me, it was a pain, but I liked learning certain things, especially that editing. Like we had to learn on the Steinbeck or whatever.
Yep, Steinbeck. Yep.
And when you make that splice, you better really want that cut. Yep. So it's a discipline that I think a lot of young folks don't have now, because now you can because if you don't come from that, they probably don't even really understand the icons that are on certain softwares that really come from old stuff like the Splice tool or or whatever.
Yeah. And having that 5D, that not 3D, but 4D and 5D and 6D mindset of how to overlap shots to create this environment, to meld these scenes together, these shots together, to put a conversation together, to put a scene together. And it's like you shoot, your wide, and then your 2 mediums, and then your 2 closes, and then you're over the shoulders to create this environment.
Yeah.
And kids these days are just like, oh, just shoot the whole thing wide, shoot some selfies. But you got to create this environment, and it's like these shots stack on top of each other. They got to be in sync.
Yeah.
And if you had cut that on a fucking reel-to-reel Steinbeck, and you find that one frame to cut on, and then you tape it together, and you have to sync that audio together too. If you shot sync sound. And you're like, this is a nightmare. And now when you get to that digital Final Cut or a Premiere or Avid, it's like, and you're doing stuff that taught you this kind of like like I was saying, like it's not really the word for it, but how I think of it is like this 5D or 6D vision of it. And you're able to just lay things on top. And
it's like difference between linear and non-linear or whatnot. Because back then it's like it had to be like this. Now you shuffle things around, move it on a timeline, and go from there.
Yeah, and right, non-linear.
Yeah,
non-linear. This non-linear mindset to make at the end of the day this linear kind of story piece together.
Yeah. But I did think, now it's all in my head, that Blair Witch comment you made, because I think that is true. I think a lot of things are going to go that way. But I liked Blair Witch, that first one, because it wasn't just the way they shot it, it was their marketing behind it. I thought it really happened.
and it was horrifying. I was I did Boy Scouts as a kid, being out in the woods, man, and hearing shit. But then they had the freaking babies tapping on the tent. I was like, bro, I'm done.
Exactly.
They thought of every little creepy thing to put in a movie, and they put it in there.
And the thing is, it wasn't even that they didn't have to, it wasn't a big budget. They didn't have to spend a lot of money. No. Like you said, it was just video. So it made it just look like it was somebody's recording. So it was the content. That was one of my things I wanted to even say on this. Content. I think a lot of that's going now versus now the big epic stuff that we see these days. I think things is, you got to be creative and smart about what how you're putting it together. And you can just throw up a camera with your cell phone, use your cell phone if it's great content and people are really into it. And even that marketing behind it, I was like, man, I thought it really happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had, a number of people tell me the most important thing in filmmaking is actors.
Yes.
You can have a decent script. And another great example, and I've brought this up a million times, is Swingers. And another film that I can definitely identify with and connect with. But who knows how brilliant of a script that was, or how they improv'd it, and it was a very simple script. But these four dudes, actually five dudes, were just kicking it and
Yeah.
and they worked so well together, and they meshed so well together, and they were hilarious. And it was just, all that film was about a guy that broke up with a 6-year relationship girlfriend, moved to LA with his buddies to become an actor and a comedian.
Yeah.
And it was them just dealing with like bullshit.
Yeah.
And it was so hilarious. And I'd never read the script. And I know the script's available on some sites to check out and see how that's written. But I think at the end of the day, you got a decent director, some decent producers, but you had great actors. And the director of Swingers ended up doing all the Bourne Identity movies.
Isn't it Favre, Mike, or
well, John Favre was one of the actors and co-wrote it, but Doug Liman co-wrote it as well with John and directed it. And Doug Liman ended up being the guy behind all the Bourne movies, all the Jason Bourne movies. I did not know that. But it, in my personal opinion, when it comes to those indie films like Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs and Swingers, it's about these guys. Yeah, it's about these guys, in their environment, selling it as actors.
Well, I go off of that. I will say that because actors are a huge thing. I know we're gonna have to go soon, but there was when I was on the panel for the Atlanta Film Festival. They give you a pass for that whole week where you can go to anything. So when I had the time, I would go and screen some films, and I really wish my memory so bad, but that I can't remember who this director was and the writer was. So it was a small independent film, maybe like 30 minutes or whatnot. But I think with the actors and whatnot, the film was good. It was like something basic. I think it was like a wedding. They were at a wedding, and it was like the drama. I can't remember if it was something cheating or whatever. But if it was I think the actors really sold the film. So when we had the question and answer, and someone asked, what I was amazed at is he said, they didn't have a script. It was all about the actors. He would tell them the gist of a scene, and then they just had to go. And sometimes, not sometimes, but so he'll tell the one actor, this is the scene. Now this is like the key points. You got to get mad or this, that, and the third. And we'll tell another actor what his stuff was, but sometimes, but they wouldn't know this other actor's thing, this other actor, like, okay, but the one thing you got to do is slap them. This actor did not know that, so it was like this authenticity or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I think because of who they were, they just sold it. And they weren't like big actors. They were all independent. And to this day, I wish, because I want to watch it again. I don't know. It just impressed me because nothing was written down.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are some unique, again, I call it production hacks, but those are some unique production hacks to where, okay, we got to make a film. I'm running out of time, didn't write a script. Yeah. Here's an idea that actually pays off. Exactly. And actually makes a good film. Exactly. Absolutely. Exactly. Absolutely. So I don't want to keep you too long, but what's one idea, and we kind of touched upon it, but what's one idea you have for the new normal?
Masks. It's several. It's coupled together. The mask, that the addition of some crew, or whatever, the compliance officers or people who help to keep the crew healthy because everybody wants to go back into production. And I think if we have the money, a lot of productions might do the whole quarantine thing, like what the Tyler Perry is doing. Granted, we all don't have Tyler Perry money. We don't have Tyler Perry studio, but I'm sure he didn't think about it when he built it. But all his studios, the lots are all functioning lots with functional houses. So that's why it's like, I still need to direct and produce content. So these are I've got these shows going. When you guys come, y'all just have to live here. He's like, I got a fully functioning lot with everything: food, housing, water, living. Oh, wow. It's basically like camp. And you guys don't have to stay here for a month. And I think a lot of folks are going that way. I think I think the studios, because I heard the studios in LA are watching what he's doing to see if it works.
Yeah, I acted in this project. I don't know what the status of it being released yet is, but we shot at the studio. The whole first floor has a kitchen. It's almost like a warehouse, office, dorm, studio. It had 3 huge green screen studios, TV studios, some smaller studios, wardrobe, kitchenette, all that, and then the whole upstairs is a bunch of dorm rooms. Where and so like they set it up to where that's the lodging with with little mini fridges in the dorms and small showers and bathrooms and everything, like a really small hotel room or a small dorm room. And there must have been 40 dorm rooms on the second floor of this establishment, and it was awesome. It was unique, and this was way before quarantine.
I think there's going to be new ways of doing stuff like that. You got to be creative. And like going back to the budgets, I know we all want to go back on set. I think whatever networks or people, the money people, the producers or whatnot, are probably looking at this and looking at ratings, like whether it's television or viewers on whatever. And they're like, okay, well, we're still getting good reception or viewers or ratings or whatnot, and we spent a quarter of what we normally spent. They're going to start rethinking that. Because real quick, I remember at Discovery years ago, just for a promo, my first spot that I had to shoot, I had like over $100,000 to shoot this spot. That's a lot of money for 30 seconds. Coming from film school, I was like, because I remember they were like, do you think you can do it for this? I was like,
yeah.
I realized I'm coming from guerrilla filmmaking. When you're working for the big boys, as soon as I would tell a company, hey, I'm with Discovery, I need crew, then prices were up. Like the director was getting like $10,000 for the day. I was like, are you kidding me? Just because I'm working for a bigger
studio,
or whatever. So people wanted to charge a lot. But I think all that's going to change. Even like you were talking about TV One and the budgets for those shows and whatnot. I mean, I know One's budgets are tight. The spots that I did for them, I had like 50 grand, but that's you're paying for travel, food, like stuff that isn't really the overall picture.
And so even with my ultra low budget independent productions that I was doing in the last 6 months, it's like, well, how much is Grubhub going to cost me when I feed these guys? That's $100.
Exactly.
What if we get pizzas? That's only $50.
Some spaghetti.
And God bless them. Since they're colleagues, since they're partners, we all chip in. And so they were buying a couple pizzas and
that's nice.
So hey, guess what I gave them? I gave them a producer credit.
Exactly. Then there's finding creative ways and doing things too. Like if you don't have the money and it's like, well, I don't have it, or I can't feed you. Or maybe if you get this day, I get that, and I'll give you a producer credit.
I'll put your logo on there too.
Put your logo on there. Yep. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, if you have one bit of advice, one last point you want to make, what would that be?
Be patient. Be creative. I think that's the main thing. I mean, going on with this whole mask debate and mask thing, I know people are uncomfortable. They feel like their rights are violated and this, that, and the third. But I'm like, just, we got to learn to adapt to this new situation. Absolutely. Just so we can all get back to work and get back to doing things. It might be a little daunting. Like you try to think on the brighter side. Okay, it's a mask. Oh, sometimes it is hard to breathe, but make it a fashion statement. Make it a person that, do something else with it. So we can all get healthy and keep especially on the production side, keep our sets healthy. So we can all just like produce great content and get it out there. Otherwise, we're going to be watching reruns of things.
Yeah, like Seinfeld every night with my wife.
everything.
To fall asleep in front of. Well, it's just to fall asleep.
Exactly.
It's either Seinfeld or Office every night for the past 2 years. So
That's
it's just something to kind of like fall asleep in front of. But
I get it. I get it.
any socials, links, plugs you want to put out there?
Yeah, see, I got some behind me.
Yep,
I don't know if you could see. So since I have so much, I mean, they're the main ones. I mean, the Sweet 76 is my reel, my production stuff and whatnot. So that's mysweet76.com, sweet spelled SUITE. And then I didn't talk about my soul flow. That's part of the CBD and some other things. I also got, during all this, I got certified in career coaching and in meditation. That's also because when in doing that, I wanted to bring that to the creative side. I think being on productions and being on set is very stressful. I think people could use times to center themselves, whether it's having, you know, somebody who comes in and can do a quick meditation with your crew before you guys start your production days. And then also right now with helping coach people on now what to do in their career and their path of where they're going. Working on that. So that's mysoulflow.com.
And I think
I'm sorry. You know what? I put it up there wrong. Actually, that's changing because it's the CBD is Soul Flow Holistic, but that's not up. But I do have My Soul Flow is my coaching. You'll see coaching and meditation up there if anybody sees and is interested in something. And now I can do that virtually.
And I'm sure they are. I mean, I think that's I think that's a very important thing. A lot of professionals are going to need, especially right now, you know, just
anxiety.
Probably in the next 6 months, you know, just being cooped up and a lot of my previous guests, you know, I could tell that you know, they're like, you know, this sucks, and I'm trying to find an outlet. I'm trying to find this, that, and the other thing. So that's fantastic. Well,
it's done wonders for me. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I feel I'm blessed. I got a wife and a kid, and I just look at this kid's face and it's just
exactly
all the problems fade away for the day. Well,
4
Janine,
months.
Yeah, exactly. Almost 5 now.
Yeah.
But Janine, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. It was a blast catching up and reminiscing and learning new stuff, and it was a great chat. And I can't thank you enough. To my viewers out there, you know what to do. Thanks for watching, and check us out next time.